Hi, and welcome to True Crime, a channel dedicated to the dark underworld of criminal activity carried out by gangsters, mobsters, cartel leaders, and others. In this video, we will explore the similarities and differences between these two infamous organizations. From their hierarchy and rituals to their operations and influence, we will delve into the history and inner workings of the Italian and American Mafia. Let's get started. History. The Italian Mafia and the Italian-American Mafia share a common origin in the island of Sicily during the mid-9th century. The same group of Sicilian rulers who emigrated from Italy also established a new branch of criminals in the streets. However, the Italian Mafia was formed to overthrow foreign rule, while the American Mafia emerged during the Prohibition era to engage in extortion. In this video, we will compare and contrast the Italian and American Mafia and examine their current status. As the two groups share similar beginnings, they also have a comparable structure. Typically, a mafia group is led by a boss who heads a family and receives a share of every operation. Famous boss names include Don Vito Corleone, Al Capone, and Vincenzo Terranova. However, sometimes the boss has their hands full and the underboss steps in to handle day-to-day operations. The underboss also receives a cut from the boss's earnings and becomes the acting boss if the boss is arrested. Mafia bosses have advisors known as consigliere who mediate disputes and represent the family in meetings with other families. Captains and soldiers, also known as capos and soldados, are responsible for fulfilling tasks assigned by the capos, and their earnings are sent to the boss. In some cases, capos become strong enough to lead the family when the boss dies, as Anthony Cario did in the Lucchese crime family. Associates, who are not officially members of the mafia, work for the group as errand boys until they gain the family's trust. One significant difference between associates and soldiers is that soldiers must be of Italian descent, or at least half Italian on their father's side. Italian Mafia. When it comes to the Italian and American Mafia, some key differences set them apart. For starters, there are 6 main Italian Mafia families and 5 American ones. Let's take a closer look at Italian families. The oldest and strongest ones are the Costa Nostra of Sicily, the Chimera of Campania, and the 'Ndrangheta of Calabria. There are also 3 that have been significantly active in the 20th century, including the Stida of Sicily, Sacra Corona Unita, and 'Ndrangheta Sud. While there are other families like the Banda della Magliana of Rome and the Malavita of Veneto, they've been severely weakened by Italian law. Out of these many families, the Costa Nostra is the most powerful, with a history of making money through protection racketeering. This includes protecting against theft or competition, and they even have a history of buying boats for the Italian parliament. However, they're not without their scandals. Italy's former governor Salvatore Caffaro is currently in jail for aiding and abetting members of the Costa Nostra. Meanwhile, the Chimera group specializes in cigarette smuggling, drug trafficking, counterfeiting, and money laundering. Unlike the usual pyramidal structure, the Chimera has more of a horizontal structure where all the capos are heads of their clans. On the American side, the Mafia is engaged in loan sharking, prostitution, and extortion on a global scale. The 'Ndrangheta and Costa Nostra groups sometimes act as joint ventures in cocaine trafficking. So while the two groups may share some similarities in structure, their activities and specialties are what sets them apart. American Mafia. Step into a world of organized crime where power and hierarchy reign supreme. In 1963, the FBI created a chart that looks like a complex political map, but it was a web of connections between American Mafia bosses. With over 3,000 members spread across 154 different areas, the American Mafia may seem like an unstoppable force, but it's organized into families that operate within specific states. New York alone has 5 different families, including the infamous Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese families. But don't be fooled by the sheer number of families. They're not in constant conflict with each other. The 5 families formed a commission to avoid gang wars and maintain peace. In other cities like Philadelphia, the Bruno family, named after the late boss Angelo Bruno, has a new generation of leaders, including the incarcerated Skinny Joey, his underboss Steve Mazzone, and consigliere Joe Legimbi, who are all keeping the family business afloat. Meanwhile, the Chicago outfit traces its roots back to the legendary Al Capone and has gained wealth through its operations in Las Vegas. It's a world of power, intrigue, and secrecy, and this FBI chart is just the tip of the iceberg. Who's more powerful? When it comes to power, the Italian Mafia has a long and violent history. It's a world where alliances are forged, and betrayals can lead to deadly consequences. One name that stands out is Salvatore Riina, a member of the Italian Corleone family, who sparked what is known as the Great Mafia War. The Corleone was led by Luciano Leggio, who became the new boss after the previous leader was killed. Their primary rivals were the bosses of various Palermo Mafia families, including Stefano Bontate, Salvatore Inzerillo, and Gaetano Badalamenti. The Sicilian Mafia had its commission, just like the five families in America, but instead of preventing gang violence, it often led to it. When Leggio was captured in 1974, Riina took over and began winning allies. He even managed to get a rival gang expelled from the commission in 1978. The Italian-American Mafia may have gained wealth and influence in America, but the Italian Mafia's violent past shows that power struggles and infighting are always just around the corner. The Massacre. The Italian Mafia's violent past is filled with stories of betrayals, alliances, and deadly consequences. The infamous Salvatore Riina, a member of the Corleone family, is known for sparking the Great Mafia War. In 1978, Riina orchestrated the brutal murders of Giuseppe de Cristina and Giuseppe Calderone, bosses of the Riesi and Catania families, who were allies of Bontate and Inzerillo. The violence continued as Bontate and Inzerillo were both gunned down in separate attacks in 1981, along with their associates, and even Inzerillo's 15-year-old son. The Corleone family then launched a ruthless campaign targeting state figures, including police chiefs, magistrates, and politicians. Throughout 1981 and 1983, there were at least 400 mafia killings in Palermo alone, and many more throughout Sicily. By the end of the 1980s, the Corleone family emerged victorious, having eliminated their competition. As Salvatore Contorno puts it, the winning and losing clans don't exist because the losers don't exist. They were all killed by the Corleone. The Italian Mafia's history is one of power struggles and violence, and Riina and the Corleone family remain symbols of the bloody and ruthless pursuit of power. The Sicilian War. Get ready for a wild ride as we delve into the turbulent world of the Italian-American Mafia. The commission, formed to put an end to gang violence, was brought about for a reason. The Sicilian War of the 1920s is a prime example of this. The American Mafia was under the control of Giuseppe Masseria, whose faction consisted mainly of gangsters from Sicily, Calabria, and Campania. However, the powerful Sicilian Don Vito Ferro had different plans and decided to take over by sending Salvatore Maranzano. Both factions started recruiting ruthless members such as Joseph Bonanno, Stefano Magaddino, and Gioelo. As the war escalated, gunmen clashed on the streets of New York City, taking down targets like Gaspar Manazzo, the president of Detroit's chapter of the Sicilian Union, Gaetano Riina, an ally, and Giuseppe Morlo, a Kai Masseria enforcer. Masseria appointed Joseph Pinzolo to take over the ice distribution racket after Riina's murder, but he was later killed in a Times Square office rented by Lucasi. To retaliate, Gioelo, the president of the Chicago Union, was murdered, further fueling the rage of Castellamersi members, who began targeting key members of Masseria's gang, such as Steve Tarigno and Joseph Catania. Although the Italian Mafia and the Italian-American Mafia share origins in Sicily, forming families and continuing a path of extortion and racketeering, what separates them are the territories and levels of violence. Recent years have seen the American Mafia curb to a significant extent through arrest and sting operations, while the Italian Mafia continues to be a force to be reckoned with. So, who do you think is stronger than the two? Let us know in the comments below, and buckle up for more tales of organized crime. Thank you for watching another amazing video from our true crime team. Like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned to our next real-life true crime video.